All right, Melissa Brody, what are you gonna show us today? Our tutors are gonna learn what from you?
So I'm going to teach you something called a fact family that you could use with relating addition, subtraction, but also for older students relating it to multiplication, division.
I really like it because it's a concept that we can continually return to. It's the sort of lesson that if a student doesn't bring their homework, you can refer back to something like this. And it's also something you can just bring up using any sort of whiteboard function in a virtual setting or an actual whiteboard once we get to back to in person. I thought it was really helpful. So could you take it away and show us how to do a fact family?
Yes, so I'm going to share my screen using the whiteboard tool. So I believe this is on Google Meets as well, but we're using Zoom right now. So with a younger student who's learning addition, multiplication, and addition, subtraction, and how they relate to each other, you can show them how we have what we call fact families. So I usually build a little house. Let me move this.
I like it.
For the younger students. And when we're thinking of a fact family, we could think of, let's say 10, 7, and 3. So for this fact family, well, for every fact family, you're going to have 2 addition problems that relate to these numbers. And then you're going to have 2 subtraction problems that's going to relate to these numbers. So when we're adding the 7 and 3, we call them add-ins, and the sum is going to be the total. So, you know, for younger students, you can say it's the bigger number. As we get older and we're using fractions and decimal, that terminology isn't necessarily true, but I would just say the total. And then for subtraction, you would start with the total. So by telling the students this, they can then take ownership and try to fill in the blank. So we know that since 7, 3, and 10 relate to each other, 7 plus 3 is going to equal 10. And with addition, you can flip-flop those numbers. So 3 plus 7 then must also equal 10. And then with the 2 subtraction equations, we start with 10. So looking at this fact family, 10 subtract 7 must equal 3. And 10 subtract 3 must equal 7. Now, fact families are so important to teach, but also give children confidence. So I think subtraction can feel scary or intimidating to some students when they're first learning it. So you can just tell them, if you know addition, you know subtraction. Mm-hmm. And that can be a great just confidence booster.
And Melissa, as I'm looking through this, am I right to say that really the major difference between the addition and the subtraction is the order of operations? Meaning in subtraction, that the big total number in the fact family has to come first.
Yes.
Or at least until we start talking about what negative numbers look like.
Right.
Right. I like this exercise.
So now if you're working with older students that are you know, let's say 3rd grade and above who are learning multiplication, you can do a fact family with multiplication and division also. So if you have, let's say 42 as your total, and we have 7 and 6. So you can do 2 multiplication problems that will equal 42. And then you would have 2 division problems that would start with that total. Mm-hmm. And so again, for instance, I teach 3rd grade. So my students kind of get intimidated when we talk about division. Like, I don't know how to do division, but they do if they understand multiplication, because that's what you usually start with is multiplication. So 7 times 6 would equal 42. Just like addition, you can flip-flop multiplication, but you can't with division. So 42 divided by 7 equals 6. You'd have to start with 42 again, divided by 6 equals 7. So
really good.
Those are fact families. And I think it helps students to feel confident about learning addition, subtraction, or multiplication, division. And it starts making sense to them when they think about how they relate to each other.
And you nailed it. And you said this the other day, we were talking about this too. It takes you, it teaches a concept instead of demanding memorization.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is obviously so much more important and allows you to transfer these ideas to other areas of math. And I would even say like the logical processes to other areas of life. That may sound big. I really do think that's true.
Yeah. And word problems, once they get to that aspect, that's more than just numbers.
Awesome. All right, fact families, thank you very much.
You're welcome.